What's up, YouTube? Knight's Edge here again. Got another little cool showdown for you, part of the showdown series I've been trying to get some similar knives or knives in the same family or whatever, and just showing some comparisons between them, kind of picking out which one that I like, if I can differentiate, you know, one from the other as far as which one I like the most or least or whatever. But anyway, this week we got the MSI, the Amphibian, and the Stitch. I think I did that backwards. MSI, Amphibian, Stitch. Kind of showdown series. We'll do some comparisons with them. The only thing with the MSI is the weight on the scales, you know, because this is a little bit different, but these are aluminum scales, so the Amphibian does have aluminum scales too. Anyway, we're going to talk all about it. Thanks everyone for watching my content. Hit the like button if you like it, and if you want more of it, subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. Thanks to all my subscribers, Patreons, and channel members. Sorry about that, I had to skip out for a second, but yeah, thanks to all my channel members and Patreons, everyone that supports me. I really appreciate you guys. Really glad I'm able to do this one. I was glad to get all three of these in the collection. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and give them some flicks open here. We got the Microtech Stitch, the manual version of a really popular auto that they've had for a long time. You've got the Microtech Amphibian right there, largest of the three, and you've got the Microtech standard issue, the MSI. So got some pretty good differences, pretty good amount of differences anyway between these, and a lot of similarities. So let's go ahead, and what we'll do first is we'll just kind of go over it almost like a regular review, but with three knives it's obviously going to be a little bit different than my normal process here. Let's go ahead and try to get through this the best that we can, I guess, with specs. Overall on the Stitch, you are sitting at 8.5 inches. Cutting edge is 3 inches, a little over 3 inches maybe. Actually, let's see, make sure I'm measuring that just right. A little over 3 inches, 3 1/8. Blade length on the Stitch, however, you're looking right at 3 3/4 if you go all the way back to where the handle meets up with the scale there, thanks to that kind of defining, sharpening choil there. All right, the MSI overall length, you are looking at right at 9, I'd say just a hair under 9 1/4 maybe. Yeah, it's a hair over 9 1/4. Overall blade length on the MSI, 4 1/8 if you go all the way back to where it meets up with the handle scale at. Sharpened edge on the Amphibian, you're looking at 3 3/4. I think I called that the MSI. That's the Amphibian. Sorry if I get them mixed up doing the review. I'm going to say their names so many times, and you know. So overall on the MSI, the standard issue, Microtech standard issue, you're looking at right at 8 3/4, 8 7/8, I'd call that. On your overall length, your blade length, you're looking at just a hair under 4 inches if you go all the way back to where it meets up with the choil, or with the handle scales rather. And 3 and let's see, right between, yeah, I'd say 3 7/16, right at 3 7/16, almost 3.5 inches, a little shy of it though on the sharpened edge on that one. So as far as sharpened edge goes, the Amphibian definitely wins on sharpened edge length. Overall length, your Amphibian going to be your longest one, and your Stitch sitting right at 8.5 inches there. Your Stitch is going to be your shortest one. All right, so let's see if I can butcher this part of the comparison. Let's zero that out. Blade stock thickness on the Stitch, one thickest part of the spine, you're looking at, let me make sure these are zeroed out first. All right, thickest part of the spine on the Stitch, you're looking at 163 thousandths, thickest part of the spine on the Stitch. So 163 for the Stitch, 137 for the Amphibian. For the MSI, thickest part, 153. So the Amphibian is notably thinner blade stock than the other ones. Behind the edge, I have sharpened this edge, so it's not a factory edge. But you're looking at 25 thousandths on the MSI. 24 thousandths belly of the Amphibian. I've definitely sharpened the stitch. Stitch, you're looking at 29 thousandths. So I think the MSI was, what would we say the MSI was at? MSI looking at almost 23 thousandths when I check it there. 25, I'm going with 25 thousandths. I'll go with 25 thousandths behind the edge on the Amphibian, and I'll go with, get in the right spot there, 28 thousandths on the MSI. So a little bit slicier, a little bit thinner stock on your Amphibian there. Not that I would, you know, define that as super slicey or anything. Still fairly thick, but not as thick as the MSI or the Stitch by any means. So let's do some size comparison. Everybody seems to like size comparisons. Let's see if I can spread these apart far enough to kind of get some other knives in there. Cold steel knives, that one might not fit. Yeah. All right, cold steel knives 8010. So the Amphibian longer than the 8010, the 8010 longer than the Stitch, and the 8010, move that up. 8010 is right at the same length as the MSI. Demco Knives 8020.5, that's the slicer version. All right, smaller than both, smaller than all three, as it turns out. All right, yeah, smaller than all three. But it does have right about the same cutting edge as the Stitch. Spyderco Knives, Paramilitary 2. There you go. I think all of these are going to have, no, Paramilitary 2's got a little more cutting edge than the Stitch. But as far as the other two go, Paramilitary 2 has less cutting edge and has substantially less cutting edge than the MSI with that upswept blade. MSI, I mean the Amphibian, sorry about that. See, there I go again. Yeah, the Amphibian has less of a choil, longer blade, and upswept, so it's going to win out. If you're looking for blade length, cutting edge, you know, that's the Para 3, by the way. Spyderco Knives, Paramilitary, or Para 3. Here's our Ontario Knives Rat Model 1. Alright. So the Rat 1 actually a hair longer, right close to it, a hair longer than the Stitch with more sharpened edge length. Amphibian's got way more sharpened edge length. And I would say, as far as sharpened blade length goes, pretty close with the MSI and the Ontario Rat Model 1. Here's the Rat Model 2. Up against the both of them, or all of them. Alright, so let's see what else we got for size comparisons. Got a Pyrite Light, that one's pretty familiar, pretty newer budget knife. Alright, I think that's a fairly good comparison for a lot of people are familiar with the Pyrite Light. And let's do one more here. Let's do the Civivi Baby Banner. Alright, so comically smaller than the rest of them. Alright, phone overheated, sorry about that guys, video cut out. So we just did the size comparisons, measurements, and everything on these. Let's go ahead and get a weight on these. The MSI is in aluminum. The Amphibian also in aluminum. The stitch is in G10. Now the MSI, these aren't the original scales. These are OG goat scales. So not really going to get a true blue comparison, I guess, per se on that, unless you had all three in G10 or all three in aluminum or whatever. MSI originally came with a polymer. Let's go with the one that I think is going to be the lightest, which surprisingly, I don't know. I don't know. I think that either the MSI or the Amphibian. I'm gonna go with the MSI being the lightest. Be my guess with these OG goat scales. 6 ounces MSI OG goat scales. All right, 6.3, pretty close with the Amphibian. With the aluminum scales, 6.1. Okay, I thought the stitch felt a little bit heavier, but maybe not. So the Amphibian slightly heavier than the other two, but bear in mind the MSI does have some G10 scales, so it might be a little different if it had aluminum scales. And again, these are OG goat scales on that, so I don't think weight would be a factor if you're picking any of these really. They're all fairly close as far as the weight goes on them. Let's go ahead and we'll do a pocket check. Now, the first two, which would be the MSI and the Amphibian, have the Spyderco clip. I mean, the Microtech, man, I am messing all up today, huh? The Microtech standard clip that they've used since they started with the Ram-Lok series. Alright, I'll show you how they sit in pocket next to each other. And the Amphibian has a little bit nicer looking of a clip, but a little bit harder to get in and out of pocket. So that's what you're looking at with all three of them in pocket. Amphibian clip also not as deep carry. So aesthetically, I would say that clip's better, just me personally looking at it. But as far as function, these two go in and out of pocket better, and they're a little deeper carry, right? So keep that in mind if that's something that matters to you, the deep carriness of your super heavy EDC folding knife. But I do like the way that one looks better aesthetically. I just think it's more pleasing. Again, all this is, got some fact, some opinion in here. So, all right. So size comparisons, weights, in the pocket, measurements, all that. Let's go ahead and we'll get out the infamous T20. Now I think these are all going to be the same with the T20 on the pivot. I know the hard way that the MSI is a T20. Wish they would have done that with the way they did the stitch. Now that's also a captive pivot, but in case you don't know, I'll say it again, the one on this clip side, that is not an unscrewable screw. That screw is permanently sunk into the barrel, into the pivot barrel in there, and you can't unscrew that from that barrel. This is the one you want to take out first if you're disassembling this knife. All right. When you look at the stitch, oh man, it's pretty obvious, all right? All right, T20 on the stitch, and T20, yeah, T20 on the Amphibian. Had to double check the Amphibian, but yeah, T20. So T20 all the way around on all three in the family, which is pretty awesome. All right, let's go. I think the rest of the hardware is going to be either T10 or T8, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So I'll go with the larger one first, which is T10. Yeah, so we're going to have T8, I think. Yeah, T8. All right, T8 on the body, T8 on the clip, on the, yeah, T8 on the body and the clip on the MSI, T8 on the body, T8 on the clip on the stitch, T8 on the body, T8 on the clip on the Amphibian. Now, despite my faux pas, screw up whenever I was doing Stephen Weigel Lanyard Man's MSI. That video was a while back. You guys can definitely go enjoy that if you'd like to. I think these have excellent hardware. I mean, I love the larger fasteners. It helps with you know, not stripping out your T20s. T20 definitely helps. You know, it's hard to strip out a T20. I was pretty hell-bent and determined to get that out of there, and it wouldn't come out. You know, that's the only reason I stripped it out, because I was being stupid. But T8 is awesome all the way around, and on the clip, that's pretty cool. And T8 on the body screws, body hardware is pretty cool also. So that's all the specs out of the way for all three knives. Now looking at these, I would say as far as a knife that I was going to everyday carry, you know, just to do like kind of like utility tasks and stuff like that, I would have to say that this MSI would be my favorite, just because of the fact that, you know, the blade shape is better to me anyway. You know, again, all this is my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. Might not be yours, but they're all three very ergonomically sound. They all three offer a pretty decent forward choil, you know, so you can choke up and get in there pretty close. But this is, to me, a more utilitarian blade shape on the MSI than the other ones. The stitch would probably be the least. The stitch would be the one I would pick, you know, if I wanted an aggressive looking, super, you know, cool knife to show some of my non-knife friends. The stitch, I absolutely love it. I love the looks of it. It's mean, it's aggressive looking, it's really cool. That's why I've got it. You know, it will definitely cut, and it'll definitely work great for EDC tasks, of course, you know, just like essentially any knife. But as far as picking one for everyday applications, cutting boxes open, cutting ropes, stuff like that, opening packages, whatever, I'd say the MSI ergonomically and by the blade shape will be the better of the three, Amphibian being right in between those. As far as design goes, the Amphibian would be my pick, because the way they got this back spacer, you know, that's really cool. I think with the large jumps right there, how it wedges in there and comes back, really nice there. It feels a little more, just something about the Amphibian feels a little more premium, I would say, than the other ones, all the way up to the clip there, and how that back spacer goes around. That's really great. The MSI would be probably second in that category, I would have to say. As far as aesthetics, it is definitely an acquired look. The most, I would say, out of these three, all three are oddball, different looking knives, but the MSI is the more acquired taste, I would have to say, with all three of them. If that makes any sense, I don't know, but to me, that's my opinion on it. The blade steel on all three of these is M390 MK, which is like M390 Microtek's version. Now, I have heard that they do heat treat it kind of soft. I don't know about that. I know all three of them came with a mean ass factory edge on them for sure. Microtek puts on some razor sharp factory edges. The M3, this one seemed to not last as long, just doing everyday tasks as far as the blade being sharp, as the MSI did. The MSI has held an edge pretty good. I put another edge on it because it was a little bit chippy. There was a couple of spots that was kind of chipping off, which is, if I'm not mistaken, typically indicative of a higher heat treat, so I don't know about that. But the MSI definitely held an edge pretty fine, and the Amphibian, I've still got the factory edge on it. Haven't done as much cutting with the Amphibian as I have with the other two, but I have done a substantial amount of cutting with it, and I absolutely love it. The thumb disc, now that is one difference between the other two. You can open the other ones with the thumb hole just fine. No wrist needed. Ram-Lok works perfect. Slide it back on the stitch. With the MSI, no wrist needed. Oh, I say that and then I flip it open weak, but if you're being intentional, about it with the reverse flick. No wrist needed for the MSI. A little bit of wrist, I guess, makes it easier on all three of them really, but they are heavy blades, so when you pull that lock back, they do in general fall shut. Now this one explanation for that, I guess, the tightness on it with the MSIs, I did just do that scale swap on it, and I kind of, whenever I put on new scales or just assemble a knife, put it back together, I kind of tend to make it a little over the action over tight, if that makes any sense, because over time it will loosen up a little bit. So it's not super tight. I mean, obviously I can still reverse flick it just fine, you know, I can still close it one-handed, open it one-handed just fine, but it is a little bit tighter on that MSI due to that scale swap. Now your other guy here, the Amphibian, although it has larger blade, it's flickable more. Now that again sounds kind of crazy. Sounds crazy to me just hearing it, but it is a little more flickable, I think, because of that little 4-step thumb stud that they've got there. That's pretty cool. I really like that. It's removable. That's only T6 on all three of these knives, and I've definitely have had that one apart. I haven't had that one apart, and I've seen Tommy's assembly video on this one, but so far as I can see, I'm almost 100% positive I'm right. That's the only T6 bit on any of these three knives. The only thing smaller than a T8, which is fine with me because it's just a thumb stud. You know, if you go to sharpen it, that's going to help being able to remove that. If you sharpen it with a slide rod, fixed angle sharpening system, being able to remove that thumb stud will help a lot, especially because that's a recurve. You know, so you're all right. Some people are going to have some issues sharpening recurves. I did too at first, but just got to kind of compensate for the belly and the upsweep in that, and you'll be just fine. So as far as all three of these goes, if I had to pick one, man, I don't know if I could. I could pick one for each thing that I'm doing, I guess. You know, if I'm wanting to be, you know, just have something cool in my pocket, show people that also works great as a tool and a cutting tool and all that stuff, but looks like super wicked and tactical, I would go Stitch, you know. And Stitch brings out my inner mall ninja. Amphibian second on that front, and the MSI third on that front. Now, if I was going for utilitarianism, EDC usefulness, then that's how the order would go, right? It would be MSI first, Amphibian second, Stitch third. So it's the winner of this is all in opinion, right? I guess opinion on what you're doing with it. So that's my take on it. All three of them definitely have, even with the MSI originally, even with the polymer, still didn't feel too bad, you know, and it wasn't the best FRN polymer, but that's one good thing about the MSI is the price. So if you look at the price on these three, the Amphibian and the Stitch come in fairly close, with the Amphibian tending to be just a touch, like maybe $5 or so higher on average if you're looking at the same handle material and blade finishes and everything like that. But the MSI, you can get these for as low as about $170, $175 you can find these for with the polymer handles. Now if you want to get more expensive and get, you know, kind of upgrade on the handle material, you can go with the aluminum. Those run around $300, I believe. Let me double check that while I'm talking right here. Let's see. Yeah, $301 for the standard issue with the Microtech aluminum handles. Now $170 to $301, that's about $130 difference. Now for these original goat aluminum scales, made in the USA too, by the way, it says it, you can't see it, it says it inside of their original goat, made in the USA. Those are, I think I paid $85 for those, so you still come out a little cheaper. You just got to wait longer for your scales, right? Come out I don't know, about $50 or so cheaper, maybe, if you're going with the aluminum. And if you're going with titanium, you're going to be higher, but if you're going with aluminum, having those, and I would say the original goat scales, I do like the aluminum original goat scales a little better than the Microtech aluminum scales. Now the Microtech aluminum scales, the ones I've experienced anyway on the Stitch, aren't bad at all. They're really nice. But there's something a little bit, I think, better about the original goat and aluminum. So if you're going to buy an MSI, you do have that option of going cheap, buying the polymer one, and then swapping the scales out. And I'm almost positive you're going to see more and more original goat scales for the other two as well. I'd really like to swap the G10 out on the stitch, although it's awesome. I like it. You know, the only difference as of right now with this one is there's no tab on this side, right? Because when you order OG goat scales, original goat scales, you order right or lefties. So I ordered the right-handed one. The MSI is identical to the other two as far in that aspect. Whenever you're looking at like stock from the factory, that's got that tab there, clip there, so you can take the clip off, take the tab out, swap them around, and it's automatically a left-handed knife. All three of these are fully ambidextrous, so that's a great thing. The Ram-Lok works fine on all three of them. I've had no issues at all with the Ram-Lok. Works great. I've seen videos and stuff where people have had issues with it, and I believe it. I think that's something that a few of them might have had. Might have been some one-offs, might have been a lot of them, I don't know, but either way, it's either an issue they fixed or it wasn't a large issue altogether. So yeah, that's my take on the Microtech Stitch, the Microtech Amphibian, and the Microtech MSI. Got it right that time. That's my take on all three. I appreciate you guys watching, listening to me ramble. Thought this would be a pretty cool video to do, kind of the Ram-Lok family, you know. And hit the like button if you like the content. Subscribe right down there if you want to get more of it. Want to listen to me ramble on more about knives. I really appreciate it, guys. And until next time, y'all stay sharp.